Welcome. Hello, and welcome today to our all candidates discussion with our Burnaby North riding. My name is Angie Whitfield, and I am the CEO at the Burnaby Board of Trade. And with me today, we have Martin Kendall, an independent candidate, and Janet Rutledge with the BC NDPs. Now, before I get started, I'd just like to take a quick minute to acknowledge and recognize that we are on the traditional homelands of the Hakamelam and the Swinomish-speaking people, and I'd like to extend my appreciation for the opportunity to hold this event today on their territory. Now, I also have a huge group of annual partners that I need to thank. The work that we do here at the Burnaby Board of Trade would not be possible without their support, and we are so grateful that they continue to invest in our Burnaby business community. Our silver partners, Appia Developments, BMO, Fortis BC, Pacific Link College, Prospera Credit Union, TD Insurance, Trans Mountain, and the Vancouver Port Authority. And our gold partners, ABC Recycling, BD Developments, Electronic Arts, Pacific Blue Cross, and Scotiabank. And our platinum partners, Alexander College, BC IT School of Business and Media, Burnaby Now, Parkland Corporation, and Simon Fraser University. These pillars in our community continue to sponsor and partner with our businesses here, and we are very grateful for their support. Now, to kick things off with our two candidates today, I'm going to give them each 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell them a bit about the work that they're doing. And then we're going to go into some Q&As we've got 5 questions about issues that are impacting the Burnaby business community specifically. I'm going to rotate between the two of who gets to go first, back and forth, and since there's just 2, we will rotate. So that's it for the guidelines. So let's pass it over to some introductions. So Martin, if you would like to begin with 2 minutes and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Martin Kendall. I'm running as an independent candidate here in Burnaby North. I've lived in Burnaby for 23 years now, 17 of those years here in the Gilmore neighborhood. I've been married for 17 years. I have 2 7-year-old children who go to an elementary school in the area. I'm just a concerned citizen who lives in the area. I just don't think our government is doing a good enough job. Unfortunately, a lot of the ills that we have in this community are due to 7 years of NDP rule. On top of that, 17 years of BC Liberal rule. We have housing that is completely unaffordable. We have schools that are packed to the gills. We have a Burnaby hospital, which is running at 115% capacity. And I don't think that's good enough, honestly. We should have foresawn that, these schools needed to go up about 10 to 15 years ago when all of these towers in the neighborhood were going up. We should have been taking proactive steps when it came to housing instead of offloading everything to foreign developers. And when it comes to our hospital, we're about 10 years behind the curve on that one too, and we deserved a lot better in this riding. I'm looking the reason I'm running is because there was only 2 options here in Burnaby. We had the NDP and the BC Conservatives, who are quite polarized. I am what I call a green conservative, and I'm somewhere in the middle. So I am a centrist moderate in this race. Basically, if you don't think David Eby's desperation is good enough, and you don't think John Horgan's belief of conspiracy theories is a little bit overzealous when it comes to becoming a premier, I'm going to be your next option. This race is close, and if we in Burnaby North said, hey, we want the independent option who's going to speak up for us, that's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Okay, Janet, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. My name is Janet Rutledge, and I'm running for re-election. I live in Burnaby Heights, and I do most of my shopping on Hastings Street in the Heights. So I also support local business as part of my role, but I also support local business with my buying power. I've, as a local customer, I've gotten to know quite a few of the local merchants and businesses, and they've talked to me about some of the challenges that they're facing. I understand that rent is astronomical and prohibitive. I know that they are experiencing labor issues, labor challenges, and some supply chain challenges. That really became apparent to us during the the flooding. I've been MLA since 2017, and I think I've developed a really good relationship with the Burnaby Board of Trade. I want to wish Paul Holden all the best in his retirement and ask him not to be a stranger. I valued his wisdom and his leadership when it comes to the local economy. And I want to welcome you, Angie, as the new CEO. We're starting to get to know each other, and I look forward to building a relationship of mutual trust and respect. I am an enthusiastic advocate, and I hope we can build on that. David Eby and the BCNDP has a detailed, integrated plan to support the local economy. It's in our platform, and I encourage people to go online and read it. There's a lot in there. And it's a plan that we've also it's building on some of the work that we've done already. So I'll just leave it at that and say I look forward to the questions you're going to ask and further engagement about this. I look forward to exploring our plan in further detail. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both for the introductions. Okay, so we're going to go on to 5 questions. The first one here, BC Chamber has identified multiple issues that have been impacting businesses across the province. And in speaking with our members, this is definitely top of the list as well here locally in Burnaby, is the increased cost of doing business. So my question to you both is, what will you be doing specifically here locally to help reduce the burden on businesses in regards to the costs? And let's start with you, Janet.
Okay. We do recognize that local businesses are facing unprecedented challenges, and so we do want to take that on. So one of the things that we've included in our platform is to do an ease of doing business review so that we can identify, what are the issues that are getting in the way? What are the red tape that businesses are experiencing that we could do something different with. So I think that's really important. And it is the type of thing that we would encourage local business to engage with us so that we find out directly from you what are the issues that are problematic, and then work together to come up with a better option. We have already lowered the tax on small business, and it is now the small business tax is 20% lower than it was when John Rustat's party was in government. Already, small business taxes are lower. One of the things that I think is really important for a lot of small businesses is our Buy Local campaign and our support of local agriculture. We know that in the recent crises, the supply chain has been a big issue, and it has increased the cost of food and a lot of basic supplies astronomically. So by supporting the innovation in local agriculture, we hope that we will play a role in reducing the cost of some basic supplies and food. And another thing that we're introducing is risk-based licensing for restaurants, wineries, distilleries. And as I understand that, it would be tailoring fees and regulations to risk. So that maybe the criteria would be the hours that an operation is open, the size, and its history of compliance, so that everyone wouldn't all be paying the same licensing fees. So those are some of the things that we've started to work on, and that we want to get to work on.
Oh, thank you. And over to you, Martin.
Thank you. So when it comes to business here in Burnaby, one of the things I've heard from many local merchants is, again, that the rent is way too high. It is ridiculously expensive to set up shop here in Burnaby. one of the things I would like to do is to reduce the amount of tax that we pay, especially for small businesses. Small businesses do support 41% of our working people here in British Columbia. If we don't have small businesses thriving in British Columbia, we're going to have a lot of people who don't have good paying jobs. As well, one of the other things I think that is a real burden on businesses, especially in the past 7 years under this NDP rule, is the fact that graffiti and the criminal element is making it extremely expensive and adding a lot of costs on to owners of these businesses. If your windows are getting smashed, if you're getting broken into 3, 4, 5 times a year, if you're getting merchandise stolen, if you're constantly having shoplifters come here and steal your product, you're not going to be in business for a long time, honestly. One day you'll just say, I've had enough and I'm going to stop this. So we need to work with our police officials, and we need to make sure that we take the most problematic offenders off the street and give these people a fair chance to operate their businesses. If we don't have clean streets, we don't have, a crime-free environment, we're really just going to be spinning our wheels, and we're just not going to support good businesses because they'll just say no and they'll just won't operate here in British Columbia.
Thank you, Martin. Okay, on to our next question, and an issue that I think both of you raised in your intro and will be no surprise, but housing affordability here in BC. It impacts everyone, young families, seniors, employers, and employees, and is a key issue for our business community as well. If elected, could you please touch on what you would do to increase the housing needs here in Burnaby? And for this one, we'll start with you, Martin.
Thank you. So back in 2022, I ran in the municipal elections, so I'm actually pretty well versed when it comes to the housing market here in Burnaby. We have the second most expensive rent here in Canada, next to Vancouver. Congratulations, yay for us. What it comes down to is we need more affordable housing. One of the big problems is that up in places like Metrotown and some of the older places in the city, we have this affordable housing. In the 1950s and 60s, they built these 3-story walk-ups. They're getting bought by offshore investors, and they're kicking the people out and basically saying, goodbye, go find something else. If you want to find something else in Burnaby, it's probably going to cost you at least $2,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment, $3,000 if you want a 2-bedroom. If you want a 3-bedroom, good luck to you. We need to make sure that we have affordable housing in this riding. One of the other things is that this BC NDP housing plan is very, very, very poorly thought out. We have as I spoke about, developers, they're going to Burnaby City Hall right now, and they're asking to have their 20% affordable housing criteria brought down to 5%. So they're going to be taking 15% out of the market. And unfortunately, Burnaby City Hall is probably going to do it because they don't have the power to stop this anymore. As well, I think one of the things we need to do is we need gentle gentrification in our single family home properties areas. But by doing that, for example, if you take a single house, make it a 6-plex, that's going to cost you $480,000 in fees to the city of Burnaby. That's got to come way down because we will not have affordable housing if this is the way that we're going to go.
Thank you, Martin. And I just noticed that Michael Liu has joined us. Thank you for being here, Michael.
How are you doing? Yeah, I got the email and Sarah says it's going to be October the 10th, so I thought the schedule was changed. And,
Sorry, it was a typo, Michael. I wrote 10 instead of 7. I was looking at the date.
Okay, that's
It's
okay. But
10-7.
I turned back around and made myself available.
Thank you. We're so happy.
Here, Michael. We're just on question 2, so you're not too far behind. So
Okay.
what I might do is just quickly pause our Q&A. We started today with just a 2-minute, giving everyone a 2-minute intro. So if we could throw that over to you and give you 2 minutes to introduce yourself, then we can carry on with the Q&As and we'll jump right back in. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Go, please. The floor is yours.
Okay, sounds good. So my name is Michael Wu, and I immigrated to Canada in 1991. I was born in Taiwan, and me and my family, I left Taiwan when I was like 6 years old, and I lived in Saudi Arabia for 10 years before coming here in 1991. My wife, she's a high school teacher. She taught right here in Burnaby. and I went to high school here in Burnaby as well. And I started business when I was really young. I was an entrepreneur when I was 19 years old, and I've been doing that for 30 years. So I understand how business works. And in 2006, I joined the RCMP as an auxiliary constable. I was a 24/7, I'll call translator for Mandarin and Cantonese and Taiwanese and various languages. And I was supporting my community because at that time, there were a lack of members that could speak Mandarin. So I get calls 3 in the morning, 6 in the evening. I would attend to a detachment right away. I would perform general duties. And so I know what's going on. I know how crimes and impact the small businesses. And I'm seeing all the crises we're facing right now and the challenges. And, my wife says, you know what, stop complaining about it. Go do something about it if you don't like what's happening. So that's why I'm here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the intro and thank you for joining us. So we were on question 2, which was addressing housing affordability here, specifically in Burnaby, recognizing that it's a big challenge for all, including employers and employees, and has a significant impact on our business community. So Martin has already answered, and I believe we were up next, Janet, and then I will give you a chance after Michael. So Janet, please, your comments on housing affordability.
Okay. We do know that housing affordability is a huge challenge in Burnaby and a huge challenge in Burnaby North. And the pressure on people is crushing, actually. People have had to make some hard choices. But our government has started to take some really important, dramatic steps to address housing affordability from the point of view of, first of all, of getting more units, more housing back on the market. So addressing the supply, but also things that we're doing to facilitate other aspects. So let me go into that in a bit more detail. We introduced a speculation tax because we believe that housing should be a place where you live, not something. We don't think it's okay to hoard food. Why would we think it's okay to hoard housing? We think that housing is a place to live. So we introduced a speculation tax, and in our platform, if we're reelected, we will double the speculation tax so that it discourages even more people to use their houses as a form of getting wealthy. We are also introducing a flipping tax because that is something it's something that comes with the astronomical price of housing, is that people feel this urge, this temptation to buy it and then sell it again really quickly. So there'll be a cost to doing that. We introduced new regulations with regard to Airbnb so that you can only Airbnb your own residence or a unit in your residence. And that has put thousands of units back on the market for long-term rental. We have committed to build 300,000 more homes in the next few years. We have committed, and we've already started to reduce red tape. Builders, renovators are able to get permits much faster than they used to. We're pre-approving floor plans, which makes it so much faster to get something built. We have increased the capacity of the residential tenancy board so that be it tenants or landlords can get resolution a lot faster when they have a disagreement with their landlord or their tenant. And we're introducing landlord insurance so that it would be an insurance that landlords could get so that if a tenant doesn't pay their rent or leaves without paying their rent, they would have insurance. And this is one of the things that it's quite unique to Burnaby. It's really unique to the Heights where I live, is a lot of our units, a lot of our housing is secondary suites. And I've talked to so many landlords that have had bad experiences, and they're afraid. to rent out their suite. And so those are a lot of units that have been taken off the market. So we want to provide support to landlords so that they feel confident to put their suites back on the market and to improve what has been a historic, mutually trusting relationship between tenants and landlords. We also doubled the number of apprenticeships in the building trades because that has been one of the things that has slowed down the building and renovations is the lack of skilled tradespeople in the construction industry. So we're going to increase that rapidly so that we have more people available to build. And I would also point out that some of these things I've mentioned, John Rustad has already stated publicly that he would cancel or reverse, including the cap on rents. So we are taking on the cost of housing directly, and we are already starting to see results. Rent is starting to come down in British Columbia. And that is a testament to the fact that we are actually on the right track here. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Okay, Michael, over to you.
Okay, so first of all, the NDP government, they had 7 years to deal with this issue. And if you look at what's happening right now, nothing's working. Burnaby right now has the second highest rent in the country, not in BC, in the country, over $2,500 for a single bedroom unit. That is a fact, and that is a reality. So when you look at housing is one of my first priorities. So I'll take what's happening right now in Burnaby. You look at the Brentwood Towers right now. You see all those towers, those mega structure going up. This is the Bill 44 and 47. Okay, this is well intended, but this is a one shoe size all fits policy is never going to work. First of all, when you look at 44 and 47, the infrastructure is not there to support those kind of housing. The plumbing, sewage, our education, school, police, fire and ambulance. Currently right now, Burnaby RCMP has 301 officers and over 100 somewhat support staff. And I'll tell you right now, from my personal experiences, it's not enough to keep up with what's happening with the growth in the population. And the second challenges we're looking at is housing stocks and affordable housing are two separate issues. You are destroying perfectly good neighborhood, like Lawns, Brent Lawn, High Lawns, all this beautiful single housing neighborhood, and you're building all these mega structures that's costing over $1,200 a square foot, which nobody can afford right now, because 50% of British Columbians are $200 away from putting food on the table, paying their bills, and making their ends meet. So how is that addressing the affordability? It's not. What we need to do is we need to give the power back to the municipal government. And plus, by the way, Mike heard in the council, they have asked for some sort of exemptions, some sort of amendment to what's going on. Because you know what? The city, the staff, and the people, right? They know what's best, how to build housing within their community. Because each region, Burnaby and Kelowna and West Vancouver, they're all different. We can set certain targets, say we would like to see this amount of housing built, but give the power back to the people and stop the government overreach so they can build housing where it is needed to ensure the infrastructure is there before we do anything. So this is number one. So this is something that I am really frustrated about, is what I've been hearing at the doorstep, and it is absolutely not working. And also for the landlord, I've heard a lot of people that are really upset about given the policies right now. A lot of landlords are actually pulling their units off the market because they're afraid what's going to happen. So they're not thinking ahead. There's no balanced approach in terms of protecting tenants and protecting landlord. So the policy is actually making housing situation much worse when landlords are reluctant to put the units out for rent because of the way how the policy is being done. 4 months, before you can, request someone to leave. And also these unwelcoming policies that I've heard so many stories that the tenant is living on a couch because the landlord is living on the couch because the tenant is not willing to move out. So we need to look at how we can support the tenants and landlord fairly and encourages more of these units on the housing market. But clearly, housing has been a huge disaster because if you address the housing issue, you can now address the affordability issue. But right now, they're failing housing across British Columbia right now.
Thank you, Michael. And feel a lot of passion in all of you on this topic. Thank you for those comments. Next, I'd like to move on to workforce development. This is an issue that the Burnaby Board of Trade has identified as an area that we've invested in and are committed to supporting, recognizing that in order for our businesses to grow, we're going to need skilled labor to be able to fill roles into the future. And there's currently a large gap. Janet, you touched on that slightly with in trades. So I'm curious from all three of you, if elected, what would you do in order to support addressing some of these labor challenges that we have here in BC? And I think we will start with Martin on this one.
Thank you. When it comes to the labor force here in Burnaby, it's a huge challenge, especially when it comes to having people who are properly trained in the trades. We have, unfortunately, an education system which churns people out of high school, sends them to university. They encounter and accumulate a lot of debt and come out, and they are barely qualified to work in a minimum wage job somewhere in the service industry. We need to be realistic when it comes to our post-secondary training and how we're doing it and what kind of people we are developing at the end of all this education. I would love to see a lot more funding into trades, into training doctors, into training health professionals in general. We are so ridiculously behind the eight ball when it comes to our medical system and how we're going to support our aging population. I understand that, the BC NDP says we're hiring doctors, we're doing all of this, but we're not doing a good enough job. We still have people coming from foreign countries who are trained as doctors there, but can't get their credentials certified here so they can practice as doctors here. That's one of the major things we need to do. The other thing we need to do is we need to make sure we have good wages, as Michael was attesting to, that basically there's a large population of British Columbians who are about $200 away from absolute financial ruin. And that is absolutely unacceptable. If you work hard in British Columbia, you should have a wage that you can live comfortably in this country and be able to afford your rent and your food and a few other things. They haven't done a good job with that with 7 years of NDP rule and 17 years of BC Liberal rule before that. I would love to see that something that is somewhere in the middle that's going to work for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Next, I will go over to Michael. Okay,
so obviously this is an important issue. At the height of my business, I had 60 employees and 4 companies. And since 2017, because of the lack of supporting business and their policy and lack of understanding from the current government, which none of them really ran any business before or knows how business actually works, my business, I have dwindled down and pretty much sold a lot of them because due to the these taxes and just really lack of encouragement. So first of all, yes, the workforce, we need to find ways to attract people to BC. And again, I'll go back to housing. If people can't afford to live here, they are not going to come here to work. Okay, that's very, very important. That's why this housing issue, we must resolve this right away. It doesn't matter how welcoming it is or how good it is or how attractive it is. And if they can't afford to live here, they're not going to come. They'd rather go somewhere else. Because right now, 1 in 3 British Columbians are thinking about leaving because of unaffordability. But that's not the scariest number. The scariest number is that 1 in 2 young adults, 1 in 2 young adults, 50% of them are thinking about leaving BC. And once they leave, they're not coming back anymore. And what I'm hearing at the doorstep when I door knock, I met so many young entrepreneurs who have startup companies and they're just so frustrated by the lack of support and understanding of how business works by this government. 33 new taxes since 2017. That's how much taxes they put on everyone else across BC. And they just feel so discouraged. I believe a government should always encourage and inspire our next generation on how to flourish and not define and dictate what success looks like. And this is something that this government will never understand. Until you do, there's nothing that you can do to encourage people to come here to live and work and, buy a house or rent a house, have a family here, because a lot of people are thinking about leaving. So we need to address that issue first before we can say, okay, what can we do now to encourage people to come here? And how can we help small business so they want to actually create more business instead of trying to close them down right now? Because right now, if you look at the business along, in across British Columbia and Burnaby, they're going through really tough times right now. So unless we address those issues, we're not going to go anywhere.
Thank you, Michael. And next, Janet.
Well, to address directly the question, which is workplace development, we do know that there is a shortage of skilled labor in almost every sector. We know that. We've known that for a while. It's been an issue since before we were government. Again, one of the hallmarks of what we have been doing and will continue to do is to increase, we will double apprenticeship funding so that people have an opportunity to get the skills that business needs in Burnaby and in British Columbia. We have done remarkable. We've done unprecedented work when it comes to creating more jobs in the healthcare sector, which is what we needed to do. And I would point out in passing that we are creating jobs, we are creating positions in healthcare, and the government that we replaced, the government that John Rustak was part of, cut jobs and cut positions and closed hospitals and closed schools. And we are trying to rebuild the damage that was done, while at the same time, we've been dealing with unprecedented crises of global dimensions, like the pandemic, like wildfires, like climate change, like global inflation and high interest rates. So we have been creating jobs, and people are coming to British Columbia in unprecedented numbers. So the evidence is that people are moving here. People may be talking to each other, or they may be talking to people about leaving, but in fact, what they're doing is they are coming here. And we have more people coming to live in British Columbia from other parts of Canada than are leaving British Columbia, because this is a desirable place to live and we want to keep it that way. One of the things that, are statistical, not just guessing and emotion, is that we have the highest minimum wage in the country, and we have the fastest wage growth in the country. And that is one of the things that's attracting people. Our economy is strong. It's solid. We still have a AAA rating, and we have a good base. So I'll leave it at that for now. There's other things I can talk about in terms of the things that we're doing to support small business.
Thank you. Thank you. And the next question will kind of build off of this one, recognizing that the film industry is a cornerstone here in Burnaby. We are home to 66% of Metro Vancouver's film studios, and there's no doubt the ripple effect of the film industry is huge here, whether you're looking at service providers, restaurants. And for us as the Burnaby Board of Trade, it's really important that we continue to advocate for this area and that it remains competitive. So current government has just recently announced that if they are elected, they will be looking to refresh the tax incentives so that we do remain competitive. So I'm going to start with Janet on this one so she can tell us a bit about that. And then to Martin and Michael, the question to you would be, if elected, how would you support this important industry here in Burnaby? So first, Janet, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to talk about this issue. Just recently, I had the opportunity to tour Bridges Studio, which is located in Burnaby North, and the film industry and Bridges is such a big contributor to the local economy, and 60% of the film industry in the Lower Mainland is located right here in Burnaby. And it generates $4.9 billion a year right here locally. And that's in production spending. And it employs 77,000 people locally in the industry. And that's a wide range of jobs that it supports: actors, crew, set designers, suppliers. And in fact, one of the things I'll mention about suppliers is I had the opportunity to meet a company that invented, this is a local company that invented a generator that is silent. And that in the film industry, that is so critical. And that is new technology that's developed right here in Burnaby. And now that's the direct benefit that the film industry has to our economy. But then there's the indirect benefit, because the people who work in that industry and who live here are also supporting other businesses. They are going to restaurants, they are buying groceries, they are buying clothes, they are doing all kinds of things locally. So the spin-off from that business is absolutely critical. I am thrilled that to be part of a government that is going to be has committed to increase the tax benefit so that we are more competitive with other parts of the country, because this is a desirable place for that industry to work.
Thank you, Janet. Next, we'll go to Martin, please.
Yeah, so I actually live right down the street from Bridge Studio. I actually have a ton of friends who work in the industry because they live so close to where the film studio is. It's definitely a point of pride in this community. I think the fact that, since the 80s, Canada and British Columbia, and especially Burnaby, have become attractive places for US-based productions to hone their craft. Part of that is because we have a competitive dollar, which is so low compared to the American dollar that the money just goes further here. And we're very lucky when it comes to that. That being said, when Janet's talking about a business from Burnaby who created a silent generator, we need to start taking the next step. In the city of Vancouver, they've just invested in a bunch of electrical hubs that are accessible to the film industry, which go one step further. You don't need a generator anymore because you just plug straight into the infrastructure right there, and you can power your lights and your cameras and your sound equipment and all that kind of stuff. We need to look at doing that kind of thing. I understand that it's a local initiative by the city of Vancouver, and I give them kudos for that, because it's definitely a green step, which we should probably be taking around the province. I just also think we also need to make sure that we are a very competitive place to set up shop, that we have the proper tax rates, that we are making sure that, when people say, I want to film my series, that this is the place to go. I think we can do that very, very easily, because we're just very, very blessed with an absolutely beautiful province, which you can have mountains and trees and whatever else you want anywhere in this province. So let's keep going with this. I think we can do a great job. And I think, we support our film studios here in Burnaby. Let's keep going with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. And over to you, Michael.
Yeah, I'll keep this very short. Again, this is not just the film industry, but, British Columbia was known for the Hollywood North at some point. People were, the industry was booming, and they were left. And I've spoken to a couple of people that work in this industry when I'm out there door knocking. They had the opportunity then to make it more competitive, but they refused to do so. and now because it's election year, so they're rolling out this policy saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. They could have done it 2 or 3 years ago to make sure that this industry thrive. We need to have a competitive tax incentive for film industry to compete with south of the border, and they didn't do that. And now, a month into election, they're rolling this out right now. And this kind of echoes to not just the film industry, but every other sector here that we have. And by the way, the credit rating, we're downgraded twice. So we have, it's not looking good right now.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, we just, with the final question, I wanted to give each of you the opportunity to speak directly to the business community in Burnaby and specifically in your riding, and give you the opportunity to say what you would do as a candidate to support business in your riding. And for this one, we will do the reverse order. I will go Michael, Martin, and then Janet. So Michael, I will begin with you. How will you support the businesses in Burnaby North?
Yeah, so there's many ways that we need to do this. We need to, as an entrepreneur myself, we need to create an environment that is welcoming for small businesses. And small businesses, they are the backbone of BC economy. If the small business thrive, BC will thrive, people will win. But if small business fail, there's nothing left here. And this is something that I'm very frustrated about. This is one of the reasons why I jump into this race, because I need to do something about it. And me and my 10-year-old daughter, we hit over 7,000 doors alone ourselves. And this is what we've been hearing at the doorsteps. So we need to create a competitive environment, tax incentives, welcoming for the businesses. But I think most importantly is the public safety aspect of it. And I think, I've been hearing so many businesses, including my own, that have been broken into so many times. I had a staff that phoned me, 12 in the morning and says, somebody's at the door, at the lobby. I don't know what they're doing, but there's a strange order that's coming into my business. And I knew exactly what he meant. And these are the challenges that small businesses are facing. Windows are being smashed, constantly broken into. So we need to do something about public safety, number one. So, to me, British Columbians' rights to safety should always be ahead of the right of violent criminals to reoffend. So the catch and release program and the constant revolving door of justice, it's not working. So you get 40 of these people that are prolific offenders out there committing the same crime over and over again. We need to install confidence in public safety, so business knows that they're protected and that these criminals are put behind bar for their actions. Otherwise, businesses are just going to fold. So many people are so frustrated because insurance have gone up dramatically because of this incompetency. And I don't blame for what's happening right now, because after all, this comes from a leader who wrote a book on how to sue the police. Okay, people that are served with out there protecting people's lives. And property crime is one of the top issues right now in Burnaby North. Businesses are being broken into. I'm sure it's going to be quite similar across the region, but property crime, it is frustrating. And unless we address that, small businesses are not going to survive. They're not going to thrive. And our economy will keep on going down the toilet. And you're going to see our credit rating keep on going down. Because if you don't have those tax dollars, you can't put into those services. Take myself, for example. I have 4 business, 60 employees. Now I'm down to 1 business. So you compare to the difference in tax dollar, and that's not just me. This is happening across British Columbia, and it is affecting all the business right here in Burnaby North. So public safety is essential to all of us, and especially small businesses.
Thank you, Michael. Martin.
Well, since Michael gave the doom and gloom answer, I'm going to try and say a little bit more positive when it comes to my answer here. So when it comes to Burnaby business, we need to shop local. We need to encourage people to shop within their own community. And there's some ways we can do this. The BC NDP recently announced a $500 million investment in a BRT route from North Vancouver to Metrotown. I think that's a great thing, but I really think the really the thing we need to do is we need a SkyTrain line from the North Shore to Metrotown. And we need it to go down Hastings Street and go down Wellington Avenue, because that's where a lot of the development for our housing is going to end up being. We also need to invest in bike lanes. We do not have good bike lanes around here in Burnaby, and I hear it all the time from people who actually bike around here. They are scared to actually be on bike routes, and they don't want their kids on them because they are not safe. We need separated bike lanes on major routes. We need bike lanes in neighborhoods that don't have cars on them. And you know what happens when people on bikes go up to businesses? They buy more. It's crazy, actually. In New York City, they decided to pedestrianize one street. The business on that street went up 35% in 1 year. We can do that here in Burnaby. So we need to invest in the future. We need to invest in greener technologies and greener alternatives, because the way that we're doing this, all we're going to do is create a car-centered dystopia, which basically everyone's going to sit in their car all day long, not want to spend any money, and they won't have any money because they're burning it all in gasoline as they sit in traffic. Anyways, we got to make sure also, the tax base is taken care of, that small business is taken care of, and I'm willing to stand up and fight for Burnaby businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. And last but not least, Janet, how will you support the businesses in Burnaby North?
Well, I do want to come back and address some misconceptions I think that may have been shared so far. But first of all, I want to tell you a short story that I think tells you where I'm coming from, and tells you where the BC NDP is coming from. When I was a new MLA, D-Wave invited me to take a tour. And for those of you that don't know, D-Wave builds quantum computers. It's the first in its existence, the computers that they build, and it happens right here in Burnaby. And I was so impressed by this new company and what they were doing that I guess naively, as a new MLA, I asked their CEO, what does D-Wave need from government to be successful here? And he did not miss a beat. What he said was childcare and affordable housing. He said, we can attract the best talent in the world, but they won't come and they won't stay if they are not confident that they can raise a family here. Now, a few months ago, I had another tour of D-Wave, and the management was showing us some of the new innovations that they had been developing, but they also then gathered their staff to have a conversation with me. And some of their young talent were still working here, and in the meantime had started their families. So this had all happened in the 7 years that we've been government. We have 3 new childcare centers on Hastings Street alone within Burnaby North. 3 new centers on that street. The childcare fees have been cut by 50% across the province. Most parents are saving an average of $11,000 a year, and there are 37,000 new spaces. So these are some things that we are directly doing to support business, because if we support customers and we support workers, we're supporting business. Now, I do want to address a couple of things that have been referred to or implied earlier about business tax, small business tax. British Columbia has the second lowest small business tax in the country. We have a low small business tax. The issue of what's happening at Brentwood and the frustration at Brentwood and where this all started. The Brentwood plan was started in 2014. Now, who was in government in 2014? That was the government that John Rustad was part of. So that started then. And then also in terms of, the whole issue of crime, I would point out that one of the things that we're introducing is a fund to support business with regard to vandalism. So the fund can be used to prevent vandalism, and the fund can be used to repair things after vandalism. That is one of the things we are addressing. That no government before us has taken that on. So we are aware of the problems and we are responding.
Mhm.
Thank you, Janet. Okay, well, that brings us well over the time for today. Thank you, all three of you, for spending this time with us. It's great for the businesses here in our network to be able to hear directly from you on some of their key issues. I wish you all the best in the upcoming election. And for those of you that are tuning in, please register. Make sure you vote, advance voting, or on Election Day, Saturday, September 19th. And thank you all and have a great afternoon. Bye.
Bye.